Hey guys, this is Mr. Burrell, and this is going to be my video for NTI Week 4, uh, April 28th through May 1st. So, before I get into talking about like our focus for the week, the elements that I'm going to ask you to write for this week, I just want to really like double down and emphasize on something uh, that I really just want you guys to take to heart because I think that most of you are good. Most of you are just kind of doing the work, doing your own thing, and it's fine. Um, those of you that have confusion, majority of you are actually like kind of coming to me, like emailing me, leaving private comments um, on posts, like, just like asking me to clarify things, all, that sort of thing. But there are a few of you that are just not necessarily taking advantage of all the tools that I think are available to you. And that's why I just want to take just a couple minutes. This video is going to be substantially shorter than last week's just because, as you can tell, like our elements that we're going to be practicing, a diary and a review, they're a lot more, I guess, just like they're not as nuanced as last week's elements. They're not as complex. They're very straightforward. So it's going to be a shorter video, but I do want to take just a couple minutes, and I just want to make a couple things clear. The first and most important thing that I need you all to do, and I'm also going to post this on the Google Classroom, like I'm going to make like just kind of like a little message on there, uh, just to reinforce this, or for uh, those of us that don't necessarily watch the videos. If you are confused about anything, you need to let me know. I will not know what's going on. I will not be able to help you if you don't communicate with me that you have some confusion. The biggest thing about uh, this NTI format of learning is that we are somewhat at a disadvantage from being in the normal classroom where if you're confused, you can, put out some very visual um, signals of that. You can raise your hand, put your head down, etc., etc., and then I know, and then that can like prompt me to ask you if you need help or like kind of start negotiating that. Obviously, we don't have that here. The biggest indicator that there's some kind of confusion is if someone goes radio silent, and by that point, we're maybe a little too far gone down the path of frustration and really getting some help. So you need to let me know ASAP, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I try to get back to you all the minute that I receive the alert on my phone that someone posted a comment on something or that someone sent me an email. But sometimes I might be busy or I might not be able to get to my computer right away, something or other. If it's something that I need to look at like a file for. So it might take me a little bit, but I will eventually try to get to you. But please, if you have confusion about something, you need to let me know. That being said, this only applies to a couple of folks in a couple of situations. I would very much prefer that we limit the number of public class comments on posts, especially if they are not the most professional in tone or wording. Um, Again, I understand being confused, understand being frustrated. This whole format that we're undergoing is, you know, it's a challenge and it's requiring flexibility on a couple of different sides. But use your best judgment when you are operating or interacting with the platforms that we're using, Google Classroom, things of that nature. Really don't want you all to sit there. Like, again, I'd rather you communicate with me than not, but just, again, just use your best judgment. That's kind of the moral of the story there. There's been a couple of instances where I've had to address that with folks. That all that being said, the it will probably behoove you, be in your best interest, when I post something, when I post these videos, when I bump the NTI lessons back up to the top of the stream, to look over things at the beginning of the week versus right when you're about to do them. I'm not saying start working on assignments like on a Monday if they're due on a Friday. I understand full well, being a procrastinator, um, or just, you have a full week to do some things that don't necessarily take a full week to do. Um, so you don't have to start working on something the minute I post about it. That's not what I'm asking you to do, especially when you have 6 other classes worth of work to work on at any given moment. What I'm asking is that you at least know what I'm asking you to do at the beginning of the week. You understand, like, oh, the thing that Burrell is asking me to do this week is write a diary entry, write a review. I understand what that means, or if I don't, I browsed the slides real quick, or I watched his, YouTube video segment on that. And I'll try to give you all the timestamps again this week for things, specific things. But it's like, if you familiarize yourself with like what I'm asking you for at the beginning of the week, then you can pinpoint really quickly where you're going to be confused or where you're going to be stuck. Because I had some people this past week that were like, it was like Friday that they were like, I don't understand the Dear Abby letter. Okay, I get that, and I'm not faulting you for not understanding it. Where I do take some exception is that you're telling me on a Friday when I posted about it on a Monday, and when you've had access to the NTI Google Slides for like the beginning of this. It's just, it's just something that it's going to make your life easier if you do some of these things. Please talk to me. I would like your communications to be more direct to me if it's like a question or a confusion. If it's something that you think will specifically benefit you and you only, like, consider it, please just send a private comment or an email. If it's something where it's like your question could possibly be something that a couple other people might also be thinking in your mind, or you're like, your peers have also like brought up this question, like you've talked to each other, then maybe ask it like in a class comment. But again, like, compose these in a manner that would be like fitting for, a Google Classroom that's actually tied to like an actual classroom. That's just, something that I'm just asking you all to do. Like, that's just from me, please. And then again, just kind of look over things. Just make sure that you're good so that we can get a lot of the questions and confusion out of the way early, so you're not stressing yourselves out and that you're not like just kind of going through the motions with the work, you know? Okay. With that being said, I'm going to very briefly go over this kind of front slide for the week, talk very briefly about what the two elements are, because again, I think they are pretty straightforward, and then I'm capping off this video. So for the week of April 28th through May 1st, our universal idea is hope. Hope. Our elements that we're going to practice: diary or a journal entry, and a review, your to-do list. And I'm going to actually add one more thing to this. So the other thing I'm going to ask you to do is just going to be the same as last week. Please turn in any work that you have not yet turned in. That's your first and foremost. I might post like a quick write or something throughout the week, but you know, that's we're not going to necessarily make that like a big to-do thing. You're going to create a diary or journal entry, create a review, upload them by Friday. I'll do the same thing. I'll have a template just like I did for last week, or you can just create them freely in Google Docs so that you're not really bound by like the formatting or anything like that. Diary or journal entry. I'll actually go to this slide first. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's like as if you were writing into a diary or a journal that you were keeping. So a good format for this, like something that like if you were doing this, I would like, you write the day and the time for the entry. You can write the time that you're writing the entry. That's not really necessarily a essential component. You write dear diary at the top. You know, it's cliche, but you write dear diary. You write the body of it, the actual kind of, you know, content that you're writing, the actual entry itself, and then just your name at the bottom. So this is just an example of the format for it. This was like a prompt, like a diary prompt that we just pulled from the internet, but you know, this kind of shows you the basic layout for one. I hope that's straightforward, but again, if you have any questions about that, please shoot me an email, post a private comment on something. But that's kind of how I would like your document to be laid out, or you know, that's how in the template box, that's really how you should have it laid out. Now, bumping up here, your diary entry must be at least 2 paragraphs. So we're talking like, I don't know, because you all always ask like, well, how many sentences is a paragraph? If you get me something that's between 10 to 14 sentences, and some of you probably just like, I don't know, sighed or made like a pained noise when you heard that. But you know, I'm just asking you to sort of just like write your thoughts or whatever. 2 paragraphs. Use your best judgment on what a paragraph is. You all know that. Like, don't just give me like a couple of sentences a pop and then call it a paragraph. You know, I'm trying to get you all to give me some quality work here so that you don't have to do a lot of revision on some of these pieces if you want to use them for your multi-genre project. 2 paragraphs, and I want them related to the universal idea of hope. So tie your journal entry in some way, shape, or form to hope. Feeling hope, feeling optimistic, you know, good about feeling good about the way things will turn out, like positive feelings, that sort of thing. You can look up the definition for hope if you really want like a specific definition to work off of. So just like everything else, this element should somehow center, revolve around, be involved with or connected to the universal idea for the week. Okay. Our other element. So if you want to like pause and kind of go back over anything for the diary entry, there you go. But I'm now going to briefly go over review. So when I'm talking about review, it's exactly what I mean. Like whenever you have like a product review or a movie review or a restaurant review, like when someone's just kind of like talking about like the good and the bad aspects of a thing, like they're like, I went and I experienced this thing, or I bought this product, and like this is my opinion of it, like this is like me like trying to be as objective as possible, but this is me like telling you sort of like the pros and cons of this thing. That's what you're doing like with a review, kind of evaluating it, giving a judgment on it. Feedback. um you know there are Amazon reviews. If you shop Amazon, you can just look up myriad number of reviews on the internet to use as examples, and I'll actually show you like one here from the Google slides. So the tips for writing them: useful constructive feedback. Don't just say like this thing sucks or this thing's awesome. Talk about the ways that the thing that you're reviewing is useful or beneficial, or the ways in which it's lackluster or defective, that sort of thing. Talk about the different elements of it, the different aspects of it. Be detailed, be specific, and be honest. Don't be vague. Don't just like say like, like it it worked really well, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Okay, cool. Like that's nice and everything, but if I'm someone that's trying to decide if I want to partake in this thing or if I want to buy it, like I need a little bit more information. How did it work well, and what exactly is it supposed to do, just to be perfectly clear. Um, Leave out links and personal information. That's just this is just generic review information, guys. So I don't really think that's going to really like come into the kind of reviews that you'll be writing, but that's just a rule of thumb. Keep it civil and friendly. That's a good thing. If the thing wasn't great, you don't necessarily have to trash it, because then that's coming back to being just detailed, specific, honest, and being useful and constructive. Don't trash it. Just, you know, talk about the things that were defective or not really useful, or, what have you. Make sure that you're using the correct name for the thing or the object or the service or whatever that you're reviewing. And just make sure that they're proofread. Make sure that, you're using correct spelling and everything, because you got to think about this. A review, the purpose of a review is it's consumer, someone that's using a product or a service, to another consumer. And so you are taking on the role of expert in telling other people, I used this product or I used this service, and in my best judgment, is going to be sufficient enough to tell you it's good enough for you to try or stay away from it. So if you are taking on the role of expert, you need to project that. And one way that you project that is, proofread, like make sure that grammar and spelling and stuff are as good as they can be. So that's actually something that I'm going to be looking for. On a couple of your things, I let them slide. In your journal entry diary, I don't really care so much about that kind of stuff because it's a bit more of an authentic piece, at least for these drafts. Review, that's something that I'm going to be specifically looking for, that they're a bit more polished, because we got to we got to consider audience for some of these pieces. We'll get a bit more into that with the multi-genre project proper. Anyway, your review. This is an example of a review. So it's talking about Daria's Snack Shop. So it's a review of this business. Remember that your reviews have to be tied to the universal idea of hope. So you might be like, well, Burrell, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to review the concept of hope? That's a creative way of addressing this assignment, but not necessarily. You can review a product or a business or a service that gives people hope, or at least says that they give people hope. Or you can review something that did give people hope, and talk about like how it did, and like kind of like your own thoughts on it. Or yeah, you can go a bit more abstract and review the concept of hope. I mean, that'd be a little bit interesting. It might be a bit more difficult to do, but there are different approaches. I personally, I would probably go the route of reviewing a product, a business, a service, etc., that at least advertises itself as giving people hope, or could give people hope, that's supposed to give people hope. And then actually talk about, do they actually do what they supposedly are supposed to do? That would be my approach to it. That's just a personal suggestion. I'll try to find another review example that could possibly set you up for that. But anyway, here's your example review for this. Remember, both elements need to be tied to hope in some way. So your journal entry or diary, and I'll move back up here. Your journal entry diary need to be tied to hope, talking about it, thinking about things that give you hope, or you having the feeling of hope, something like that. And then your review should also be tied to hope in some way. Please turn them in. And again, guys, I cannot stress enough, like, you have to communicate with me. And you have to do it effectively and efficiently, because the vast majority of you are fine. And I think you know that. And I think you know that I'm not speaking to you. But some of you, and unfortunately, some of the folks that I am talking to are probably not folks that are watching this video. Some of you just really just step it up a little bit, like in terms of like your communication, because that's going to be just so big as we move forward through the weeks of NTI. Anyway, I hope you all have a great week. That's all I have for you, and I will post in Google Classroom throughout the week. Might have a little bit of additions, but this is our major to do. Good luck with everything, and yeah, please keep in touch. Later.